Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Tristan Rallings, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Matthew White. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of the ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, at the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths of floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Roy Marr Bernays. Roy Marr Bernays was born on the 13th of October 1890, the second of three sons born to Charles and Lillian Bernays of the Brisbane suburb of Kangaroo Point. Bernays was born into a prominent Queensland family. His grandfather was an important administrator and public servant of the colony and later state of Queensland. His father also worked in government and served as assistant and sergeant of arms of the Legislative Assembly. His older brother Claude served as Deputy Commissioner of the British Solomon Islands but died there in 1911 from disease. As a result of his family's close connection with the Queensland government, Bernays grew up in a cottage on the grounds of Parliament House in the centre of Brisbane. Roy Bernays attended Brisbane Grammar School, where he served in the cadets and later worked as a clerk at the Commercial Banking Company of Sydney, where he was said to be a valued young officer. Bernays enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 28th of August 1914, not long after the outbreak of the First World War. He was among the first troops to enlist and serve for Australia, and soon began training with the 3rd Infantry Battalion of the 1st Brigade. His younger brother also served in the First World War. Geoffrey Bernays served in the British Army, was wounded at Vimy Ridge on the Western Front, and later served in Greece in the Salonika campaign. His distinguished service saw him reach the rank of Major, and he was later granted a member of the Order of the British Empire and a Grecian Order of the Redeemer. Less than 2 months after enlisting, Roy Bernays sailed with the 3rd Battalion from Sydney to Egypt for further training. On the 25th of April 1915, Bernays and the 3rd Battalion were among the first Australian troops to land on Gallipoli. They were with the 2nd and 3rd waves of troops to land at about 5:30 in the morning under heavy enemy fire, and spent the next few days in almost continuous action on the steep cliffs and ridges that surround what is now known as Anzac Cove. Soon after landing, Bernays and the 3rd Battalion successfully captured a high ridge held by Turkish troops and occupied the trench defence system. For the next 4 days, the exhausted troops saw off a series of Turkish counterattacks and suffered terribly from constant and accurate Turkish shrapnel artillery fire. On the 27th of April 1915, 2 days after the initial Anzac landings on Gallipoli, Bernays was killed in the trenches, likely as a result of a shrapnel barrage. He was 24 years old. In the chaos of the fighting in those early days of the Gallipoli campaign, the exact whereabouts of his body was lost, and his name is recorded on the Lone Pine Memorial, which commemorates more than 4,900 Australians and New Zealanders who have no known grave. Private Roy Marr Bernays' name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Roy Marr Bernays, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.